Screams of terror carry on the wind. You freeze, not knowing the dangers that await. Hi all, and welcome back. Today we will be looking into the lore behind the Banshee. Phasmophobia has once again come up with a little lore for us to read and break down. Let's see what it says and see if we can find some truth. Phasmophobia states the Banshee is a natural hunter and will not be picky with who it attacks. It is also known to stalk its prey one at a time until it is ready to kill. Its unique strengths. A Banshee will only target one person at a time. Its weaknesses. Banshees fear the crucifix and will be less aggressive near one. This is the lore to the game. Now let's see what a Banshee is according to real world lore. So, what is a Banshee? Depending on who you ask, a Banshee is a spirit, ghost or fairy from Irish folk tales. This entity uses screaming and wailing to inform of a coming death to a family. It is said that family of Irish nobility have their own Banshees. Banshees are said to appear in two forms. One is of a tiny withered old crone with white silvery hair, or a very tall, thin, beautiful woman with red hair. But most would agree what you would call a typical Banshee has long flowing hair and is dressed in white. Historians have traced the first stories of the Banshee all the way back to the 8th century. The spirit comes from a tradition where women sang sorrowful songs to lament someone's death. These women were known as keeners. Keeners were usually women paid in alcohol, and because of this were seen as sinners or improper in the eyes of the church. The souls of these keeners were to be punished by becoming banshees upon their death. Others theorise that banshees come from women who had very violent deaths or were treated improperly before their deaths. Banshees always appear alone, and their sole purpose is to warn the living of when a death is coming to the family. This is done by crying, screaming and clapping. Banshees are linked to their families for centuries, and it is thought that they are ancestors of that family. Now this is where modern media gets the whole Banshee story wrong. A Banshee is a protector of the family and its lands. These Banshees had very strong bonds with their families while living, so in death they return as protectors. When they manifest themselves, these Banshees appear as beautiful women that sing sorrowful songs. These songs are said to be filled with concern and love for their families. It is believed that their songs can only be heard by the person for whom it's intended. Banshee stories became less and less common towards the 17th century. It is theorised this was because around this time the British government started to confiscate Irish lands. These British families that moved onto the lands couldn't have Banshees because they didn't have Irish ancestors. Now guys, it's time for a little tale. Let me take you on a journey dating back to the 1940s. This incident occurred in Fulton Place along a small street in an old worker's cottage. One winter, an elderly gentleman off the street became suddenly ill, and he was confined to his bed. A few days later, some black crows landed on the street in front of the house. Some visitors to the house rushed out and chased away the crows. This was because it was feared these birds had come for the old man's soul. Later that night, the old man's condition deteriorated, and a priest was sent for to perform the last rites. Some time after, one of the younger guests heard a faint knocking on the door. She asked if anybody had heard the knocking, but nobody was there and nobody had heard. She heard the knocking again, but this time louder and followed by a low moaning. An old woman, suddenly sitting nearby, noticed the frightened expression and told her to go to the door, exclaiming, "He'll never get any rest until the door is answered." The young girl got out of her seat and went to the door. Hastily, she opened it. All at once she shrieked in fear before collapsing onto the floor. The remaining people in the house rushed to the girl to see what had happened. As they made it outside, they found the girl lying on the cold ground. They brought the girl back into the house and tried to calm her and comfort her. Once she had calmed, they asked what had happened. The girl explained, "When I opened the door and looked across the yard, I could see an old hag-like woman with long white hair and a white dress. She appeared to be crying and moaning. Then she started to move towards the house. As I screamed, she vanished." The old man later passed away that night. As far as the family who was present all that day said, they felt like a banshee had visited. No one is sure how the banshee knows when a person is about to die. One theory suggests that each family member has their own personal watcher who reports back to the banshee. This is a belief that is slowly being forgotten, and the banshee is becoming nothing more than a bedtime story. So guys, as you can tell, the banshee is not an entity that causes harm. More, it's the opposite. The banshee has been given a bad name due to media and is an old entity that is slowly disappearing and becoming just stories. I want to say thank you all for watching this video, and if you want to know more, there are so many stories out there. If you want to see more fun content, head over to my Twitch, and once again, thank you. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe, and until the next time guys, stay spooky.